I worked for 10 years, and my name never appeared on the honor roll. On the second day after his retirement, all 3 production lines stopped. When the factory director called me personally, I was picking tofu at the vegetable market. The phone vibrated 3 times in my pocket before I answered it, because he was calling my private number, and this number had only rang twice in 10 years. Once to notify me that my year-end bonus had arrived, and once to notify me that my husband had passed away. The 3rd time, he begged me to go back. Master Zhou, all production lines have stopped. Can you come back and take a look? I put the tofu into a plastic bag and said something to my phone. Sorry, I'm retired. After hanging up the phone, I continued picking cabbage. The vegetable seller asked me, who is it? I said, we have the wrong person. When I entered the factory 10 years ago, I was 40 years old. That day, I was wearing the blue cloth jacket that my husband bought for me before he passed away. I was standing at the door of the workshop. Wang Jianjun looked me up and down and said, female? I said, what's wrong? He said, nothing. Line 3, you learned from Lao Zhang. I went. Lao Zhang threw me an equipment manual and said, read it yourself. I watched it for 3 days and 3 nights. On the 4th day, the conveyor belt got stuck. Lao Zhang fiddled with it for half an hour and said that the bearing was broken and needed to be replaced. I walked over, listened, and said, it's the coupling that's misaligned, not the bearing. Lao Zhang knelt down and took a closer look, then looked up at me. I still remember that look, not admiration, but vigilance. It took me 4 days to see through the position he had been in for 10 years. I didn't care, because I know that in this factory, having real skills may not necessarily be useful, but without real skills, it will definitely be useless. After I repaired the equipment, Wang Jianjun came over and patted Lao Zhang on the shoulder and said, Lao Zhang is amazing. He finished it so quickly. Lao Zhang did not deny it. I stood 3 meters away and watched Wang Jianjun hand a cigarette to Lao Zhang. That night, I went home and wrote a line on the first page of my notebook. The credit belongs to others, but the ability belongs to you. Later, when Lao Zhang retired, he said to me on the day he left, Shufin, you are better than me, but in this place, strong people may not be able to go up. I said, I know. He said, you know why you still stay? I said, my son is in high school. Lao Zhang looked at me for a long time, patted me on the shoulder, and left. After he left, Wang Jianjun stuffed his nephew Xiao Zhou into line 3 and asked me to take him. Xiao Zhou is 13 years old and has graduated from college. He is fair-skinned and has a sweet mouth. On the first day, he called me Sister Zhou and said, please take good care of me in the future. I said, look at the drawings again. He watched for 10 minutes and then started scrolling through his phone. I didn't say anything about him because I know he is not here to learn skills. He is here to occupy a position. Wang Jianjun put him in just so that he could take over my post 3 years later. But I still taught. It's not because I'm generous. It's because the equipment breaks down. If Xiao Zhou doesn't know how to fix it, I will end up getting out of bed and going into the workshop in the middle of the night. I taught him for 3 years. He learned a little bit and then became the team leader. Wang Jianjun said at the meeting, small anniversary is strong and dynamic and is the future of the factory. The audience applauded. I sat in the corner and clapped my hands along. That night I wrote another line in my notebook. The person you taught for 3 years replaced you, not because you taught him wrong, but because he never intended to learn. In 2018, the main shaft of line 3 broke. That kind of imported spindle is not in stock in China. You have to wait 2 months for a replacement, and the loss is at least 50 million. Wang Jianjun was so anxious that he walked around the workshop and made more than a dozen calls, but no one could answer the phone. He walked up to me and said, Master Zhou, please think of a way. I squatted down and looked at it for half an hour and said, the spindle can be welded, but it is not strong enough after welding. A support needs to be added. He said, can it be done? I said, try it. I welded for 3 days and 3 nights and didn't go home. On the morning of the 4th day, the equipment was restarted and the production line was alive. Wang Jianjun patted me on the back and said, Master Zhou, you have done a great job. 1 month later, during the year-end commendation ceremony, the first name on the honor list was Wang Jianjun. When the host read his name, I sat in the audience without shaking the teacup in my hand, because I already knew it. As early as 3 days ago, I saw Wang Jianjun handing over an advanced individual declaration form for Line 3's spindle emergency repair to the factory office. The applicant's name was written in the column. I didn't ask, because asking is in vain. He is the workshop director, and I am an ordinary worker. The factory will not investigate a director for a worker. That night, Wang Jianjun gave me a red envelope and said, Master Zhou, this is what I want. I opened it and took a look. It was 500 yuan. I returned the red envelope to him and said, no need. He said, don't do this dash. I said, Director Wang, I know how much I am worth. You can keep it. He didn't insist anymore and took back the red envelope. He was a little polite to me after that, but only a little. The bonuses go to others, the honors go to others, I repair the equipment, and I train the apprentices. Later, 3 major malfunctions were repaired, and each time there were other people's names on the year-end honor list. In 2019, it was Lu Ming, in 2020, it was Li Chang, and in 2021, it was Xiao Zhou. I haven't been to any of them. Someone complained on my behalf. He was an old second-line worker named Zhao. He said to me, Shufin, all the credit for the equipment you repaired belongs to others, so you just let it go? I said, what if we forget about it? He said, go to the factory director. I said, does the factory manager know me? He was stunned, because I'm telling the truth. Factory director Zhou Guoqing came to the workshop 5 times. Each time he shook hands with Wang Jianjun and greeted Xiao Zhou. He didn't even look at me when he walked past me. In the eyes of the factory director, the equipment of Line 3 is maintained by Wang Jianjun's team. Xiao Zhou is the team leader in his team. I'm a person who doesn't even deserve to be on the honor roll. 10 years, 127 equipment failures. The annual output value of the 3 production lines is 600 million, all of which are in my hands. But I am not on the honor roll. My salary has not been increased, and my rank has not been promoted. On the day of retirement, Wang Jianjun said that he originally wanted to hold a farewell party for me, but he was too busy. I stood at the door of his office, watching him lower his head as he scrolled through his cell phone, and said, "It's okay." He raised his head, as if he just remembered that I was still standing here, and said, "Master Zhou, please walk slowly." I took my retirement certificate and left. When I walked to the door of the workshop, there were more than 20 workers busy, but no one looked up. Security guard Xiao Li was smoking at the door. When he saw me, he said, "Master Zhou, are you leaving?" I said, "Well, I'm retired." He said, "Oh." I rode my electric bike home. 10 years ended like this. That night, I went to bed very early and very deeply. At 2:14 in the middle of the night, the phone rang. Xiao Zhou called. "Sister Zhou, line 3 has stopped." I closed my eyes, put the phone against my ear, and could hear him breathing heavily over there. Why did he stop? I don't know. It suddenly stopped turning. I checked for a long time and couldn't find the reason. Have you found Director Wang? Even if we look for it, there's nothing he can do. Let me ask you. I'm retired. Sister Zhou, please. I hung up the phone. Then it rang again, and I hung up again. The third time I turned off the phone. In the darkness, I stared at the ceiling with my eyes open, and the corners of my mouth moved. Line 3 was installed by me. It took me 3 full months to get it running smoothly. Every thread, every bearing, and every sound on it is familiar to me better than anyone else. Xiao Zhou followed me for 3 years, and he thought he had learned it. He learned to shell, but he couldn't grasp any of the things inside those things that I stayed up countless nights to figure out. Wang Jianjun thought that if the equipment broke down, he could just find someone to repair it. He didn't know that the person who was looking for someone to repair him had already been sent away by him. I slept until 9 o'clock the next morning, the first time in 10 years. Turning on the phone, there were 37 missed calls. There are 18 Xiao Zhou, 12 Wang Jianjun, and 7 landline. There were 5 more voices, but I didn't listen to any of them. I went to the vegetable market and bought tofu and cabbage. On the way back, I passed the bank and checked my pension and found that 3,000 yuan had arrived in my account. Enough. I used to support my son by myself, and I could live on 800 yuan a month. 3,002 is enough. When I got home, downstairs, a black car parked at the door. Wang Jianjun got out of the car, his eyes red. "Master Zhou, all 3 production lines have stopped." I stood at the top of the stairs, holding a bag of tofu in my hand. "Sanzhou, line 3 was stopped last night. Line 1 was also stopped this morning, and line 2 is gone just now. The daily loss is 870,000. Master Zhou, you have to go back and take a look." I looked at his hand. It was grabbing my arm, its knuckles white. "Director Wang, aren't there people in the factory? Xiaozhou, Liuming, Li Qian. They can't fix it. Can it be fixed?" I smiled and took his hand away. "Aren't they on the honor roll every year?" Wang Jianjun's face froze. I've seen that kind of expression before. Last year at the factory celebration, he drank too much and was exposed in public by his colleagues. It was that kind of expression. The mouth opens and closes like a fish being fished ashore. "Master Zhou, don't worry about it at this time." "I don't care." I walked around him and went upstairs. I'm really retired. Things in the factory have nothing to do with me. When I closed the door, I heard him call my name from downstairs. The sound was squeezed out of the throat and was a bit hoarse. I stood behind the door, holding the bag of tofu for about 10 seconds. Then I walked into the kitchen and started washing the cabbage. #, chapter 2. Another person came in the afternoon. This time it was Director Liu from the factory office. When I opened the door, he was holding 2 cartons of milk and a load of fruit with a smile on his face. Director Liu is a tall and thin man who wears glasses. He usually never looks at the workers when walking in the factory, but now he is bent over like a folding ruler. "Master Zhou, the factory director asks you to come over." I'm retired. The factory director knows that he has something important to discuss with you. "What's up?" "This. I can't tell you clearly on the phone. You'll know when you go there." I leaned against the doorframe and looked at him. "Director Liu, I have been in the factory for 10 years. How many words has the director said to me?" He was stunned. 2 sentences. The first sentence was on the day I joined the company, and he said, "Welcome." The second sentence was on the factory anniversary last year, and he said, "Thank you for your hard work." I am not familiar with him, so there is nothing to discuss. Director Liu's smile did not disappear, but it solidified. He opened his mouth, probably wanting to say something official, but in the end, he just put the 2 cartons of milk at the door and said, "Master Zhou, you can think about it again." He's gone. Milk and fruit are left at the door. I carried it into the house and checked the shelf life, but it wasn't expired yet. At 6 o'clock in the evening, the doorbell rang again. This time, it's Xiao Zhou. He stood outside the door, holding 2 boxes of strawberries in his hands. His face was paler than in the morning, and his eyes were black and blue. "Sister Zhou." "What's up?" "Let me see you." He handed over the strawberry. I didn't answer. "Sister Zhou, I really can't find the reason for the fault on line 3. Have the bearings been replaced?" "Changed." "Where's the control panel?" "Checked." "Sensor." "Everything checked, no problem." "No problem. Then why not transfer?" He lowered his head and said nothing. I looked at him. He had his head lowered like this when he first came here 3 years ago, but at that time he was pretending, but now he is real. Xiao Zhou, you have been with me for 3 years. How much of what I taught you have you remembered? His lips moved, but he made no sound. If the device does not spin, it is not necessarily a problem with the device. He raised his head and looked at me, his eyes bloodshot. What's that? You are the team leader, you ask me? I reached out and closed the door. Halfway through closing the door, his hand reached over and jammed the door. Sister Zhou, please. I looked at his hand. 3 years ago, I handed the wrench to him and said, try it hard. He twisted it twice and said he couldn't turn it. The hand was now stuck in the crack of the door, its knuckles white and trembling. Let go. He was loose. I closed the door. I ate by myself that night. Stewed cabbage with tofu and stir-fried sliced meat. Halfway through the meal, my cell phone rang. It was my son asking me if my pension was enough. I say enough is enough. He asked me what I was doing again, and I said I was eating. He said that's okay. Mom, you should go to bed early, and I said yes. I hung up the phone and continued eating. Halfway through eating, the chopsticks stopped for a moment. I think of 10 years ago. At that time, my husband had just left, and my son was in his first year of high school. I stood at the gate of the factory with a toolbox on my shoulders, and I had only one thought in my mind. I can survive. At that time, Wang Jianjun had not yet become the workshop director, and at that time, Lao Zhang had not yet retired. At that time, I thought that as long as I worked hard, I would be seen. It took me 10 years to understand that if you work well, you may not be seen, but if you don't work well, you will definitely not be seen. But I did a good job. I had 127 equipment failures, and all 3 production lines were supported by me. I didn't make a fuss when the credit was taken away, I didn't make a fuss when a year-end bonus was taken away by others, and I didn't find anyone when I was not on the honor list. Because I think the days are still long, and I will always be seen. In the 10th year, I retired. The entire production line was stopped the next day. They saw it. Early on the 3rd day, someone knocked on the door. I opened the door, and there were 3 men standing outside. Factory Director Zhou Guiqing stands at the front, with Deputy Director Li Jun on the left and Wang Jianjun on the right. The factory director was wearing a dark jacket, his hair was neatly combed, and he had an expression on his face that I had never seen before. Not condescending, not routine, but a slightly awkward, serious expression that was trying to keep his posture down. Master Zhou, can we go in and talk? I turned sideways. Please come in. 3 people entered my house. In an old house of 60 square meters. The sofa is from 10 years ago, and the legs of the coffee table are a little crooked, so I used paper shelves to cushion them. The factory director looked around when he came in. His eyes stopped on the coffee table for 2 seconds and then moved away. Master Zhou, the conditions are difficult. Make do with it. He sat down and put his hands on his knees, as if he was organizing his words. Master Zhou, let me apologize to you first. He stood up and bowed to me. I stood there without speaking. The factory has treated you badly these years. He sat down again and sighed. 3 production lines have been stopped for 2 days. The daily loss is 870,000. 2 days, 1.74 million. 2 experts were invited to look at it. They said it was an overall problem with the control system. It will take at least a month to replace it, and the loss will be at least 26 million. He looked at me. Master Zhou, can you practice it? I said, yes. His eyes lit up. Real? It's not a control system problem. What's that? Ground. Ground. The 3 production lines share a grounding system. It rained heavily last month, and the grounding point was soaked. The surface of the copper bar was oxidized, and the resistance increased. When the equipment was started, the current was unstable, and the automatic protection was triggered. The factory director was stunned. Just that simple? It's that simple. 拍转头看了一眼王建军. Wang Jianjun lowered his head and stared at the crooked legs of my coffee table, as if it was the most interesting thing in the world. Master Zhou, the factory director turned around, come back and do me a favor. The fee is easy to negotiate. I looked into his eyes. This person said welcome to me when I joined the company 10 years ago, and he never said a complete sentence to me again in the next 10 years. He is now sitting on my sofa with his knees together, like a person coming for an interview. Director, I have several conditions. You say. First, formally apologize at the factory-wide meeting. He glanced at Wang Jianjun. Second, add my name to the list of honors. For 10 years, complete the list. Third, I turned to Wang Jianjun. Director Wang is suspended for inspection. Wang Jianjun raised his head suddenly. Master Zhou. I looked at him. In 2018, the main shaft of Line 3 broke. I welded for 3 days and nights and saved 50 million. The year-end commendation as an advanced individual belongs to you. I repaired the hydraulic system in 2019, and the commendation goes to Lu Ming. In 2020, I checked the short circuit of the control system, and the commendation goes to Li Chang. In 2021, I adjusted the accuracy of the robotic arm, and the commendation goes to Xiao Zhou. I paused. In 10 years, I repaired equipment 127 times. My name does not appear on the honor roll. You appear on it 4 times. Wang Jianjun opened his mouth, and his lips were trembling. I don't care about how many bonuses you have received over the years and how much progress you have made, but today, you have to give me an explanation. What's the argument? Suspension for inspection. Master Zhou. Director Wang, 3 production lines were stopped for 2 days, resulting in a daily loss of 870,000 yuan. Who is responsible? He stopped talking. This is the workshop you are in charge of and the team you lead. If the equipment breaks down, no one will repair it. This is called management responsibility. Master Zhou, what I've done to you over the years. What did you do to me? I looked at him. On the day I retired, you said I was too busy and there was no farewell party. He shut his mouth. The factory director looked at me, then at Wang Jianjun, and was silent for a long time. Then he said, Master Zhou, I need to discuss your conditions with the team. Can. But the production line. Director, the production line loses 870,000 yuan every day. It's not my business, it's your business. He was stunned for a moment. I'm here to negotiate terms, not to help. The factory director looked at me with an expression as if he was meeting me for the first time. He said, Master Zhou, you have changed. I smiled a little. It hasn't changed. I've always been like this. I just didn't dare to say it before. 那天下午，厂长又来了，一个人。He handed me a piece of paper with the minutes of the team meeting on it. All agreed. I finished reading the paper. A public apology was held at the factory-wide meeting. His name was added to the honor roll, and the 10-year advanced individual bonus was reissued. Wang Jianjun was suspended for inspection. When will the meeting be held? Tomorrow morning. Okay. I stood up and picked up the tool bag behind the door. Let's go to the factory. The factory director was stunned. Now, once the terms are agreed upon, I'll get to work. When we arrived at the factory, the 3 production lines were parked quietly. The workers gathered at the door of the workshop. When they saw me coming in, someone shouted, Master Zhou is back, and the crowd became commotion. I didn't look at them and walked directly to the grounding point of line 3. The soil was peeled away to reveal a copper strip with a layer of gray-green oxide on the surface. I took out the sandpaper and sanded it for 5 minutes, tightened the screws, stood up and clapped my hands. Try it. Xiao Zhou stood in front of the console and pressed the start button with trembling hands. Buzz. Line 3 moved. The crowd burst into cheers. I walked to line 1 and line 2 again and did the same thing. Within 40 minutes, all 3 production lines were activated. The factory director stood next to me and was silent for a long time. Master Zhou, thank you for your hard work. I put away my tools. Director, see you tomorrow. The next day, there was a factory-wide meeting with more than 300 people sitting in the workshop. I sat in the front row, next to an empty one. That was my special request. The factory director stood on the stage and said something. Today's meeting is to apologize to one person. The audience fell silent. This person has worked in our factory for 10 years. She has repaired 127 equipment failures. The annual output value of 3 production lines is 600 million, and there has been no major problem in 10 years. Who did she rely on? He paused. It depends on Comrade Zhou Shufan. All eyes turned to me. But what have we done in these 10 years? Her name is not on the honor roll, and there is no certificate of merit for her in the year-end recognition. The credit for the equipment she repaired is given to others. Master Zhou retired 3 days ago, and all 3 production lines were stopped the next day. Why were they stopped? Because no one knew how to repair them. Experts hired from outside said they needed to change the control system, which would cost 26 million. Master Zhou came back, and within 40 minutes, all 3 lines were repaired. He walked off the stage and walked up to me. Master Zhou, on behalf of the factory, I apologize to you. He bowed. The audience burst into applause. I stood up and took the phone. My name is Zhou Shufan. I am 50 years old this year. My husband passed away 10 years ago, and I came to this factory alone with my son. In 10 years, I repaired 127 faults and had 3 apprentices. I have never been on the honor list. I paused. I know I don't have anything to do with it and nothing will happen to me, but I did something. If a person does something, he should be seen and recognized. It's not because she can talk. It's not because she has a backer. It's just because she does things. There may be many people like me among you who work without being seen. I want to tell you that your efforts deserve to be respected. The applause was louder than before. I saw someone wiping their eyes. The factory director came over and said, Master Zhou, you come to unveil the honor list. I walked up to the red cloth and uncovered it. The first name, Zhou Shufan. A line of small print below, 2014 to 2024 Special Contribution Award. I stood there looking at the name for about 5 seconds. 10 years. Then I returned the microphone to the director and walked off the stage. When passing Wang Jianjun's position, he lowered his head. There was a cardboard box on the table with his personal belongings inside. When he saw me passing by, his lips moved. I stopped. Director Wang. He looked up. I'm not the only one you're sorry for. What's the meaning? Xiao Zhou. He froze. You stuffed him in and became the team leader without learning anything. Now that you've suspended him, what will he do in the future? He doesn't know anything. Wang Jianjun's face turned completely pale. It's not me you're hurting. It's your own nephew. I walked out of the workshop. The sun shines on the cement floor at the door, shining white. I took out my phone and sent a message to my son. Come back on the weekend, and Mom will cook for you. He replied instantly, okay. I stuffed my phone back into my pocket and walked past the honor roll. The names on the list reflected light in the sun. The first one is me,